All right, so yeah, let's go ahead and create a rectangle light. So if we go ahead and switch this back over to RenderMan, you'll see it's basically just going to shine directly from the light. And it's going to look like there's like another light source like behind the camera, like maybe like another room or a window, or maybe a TV is on, something like that. But this is going to be like a direct light. So Tristan, what you're talking about is if we take this and kind of flip it over this way, and then what we could do is maybe take a plane. Come on. All right, there we go. That should be this way. Okay, this way. And so I'll just use that panel. And if I put a surface shader on it, let's take a look and see how that looks. So we will get, so you'll see that there'll be a difference right there as this thing keeps re-rendering, that we'll get a little bit of more of illumination right through here with the light bouncing off of that surface. So if we further intensify this light, so we'll go up to 20, you'll see that we are then basically just bouncing that light directly off. So something like that. Another option sometimes, what I'll do is I will replace, so it's not so much dependent on the lighting, but it will give me a bit of like an atmospheric, basically just give me like an atmospheric add-in, is if I actually switch the Pixar surface with a Pixar constant. And so the constant, as I mentioned before, is something that doesn't really depend on light. It doesn't really give off light, but it will bounce the color around the scene pretty well. So this kind of in a way acts as a light, but it's not a light. But it does, as you see, like reflect that color around the scene really, really well. And like if you change that color to, you know, red, you'll get this red kind of glow that'll fill the room.
So you're just replacing the surface area with the constant?
Yeah, it's just something that, you know, kind of acts like a light, but again, it's really not, because it's not gonna do shadows or anything, so then you can kind of adjust the color.
Did you delete the light?
I did. I just deleted it simply just to show that the light's not affecting it. So you can do something like that. So then if we go back to our original, camera angle, so now we got a lot more bounce lighting in there because it's coming from the constant. All right. So with the, pretty much with every light that I have in a scene, I usually will play around with the temperature, depending on like what kind of bulb it's supposed to be. If you guys ever go and buy light bulbs, you know that they'll have like temperature ranges on them. So, this might be like a cooler LED, or it might be like an artificial warmer color, something. So I'm going to go into its mesh light, and we should be able to enable temperature. And we can do a little bit of color, but I'm going to do it through the temperature. So let's go ahead and do maybe a little bit of like a warmer tone. Generally, I feel like the warmer tones give me a little more of like a homier feel, something that feels more comfortable, a little bit more, it feels like home, basically. It feels more natural to me. So 6500 is just white, so that would be like the sun. So if we go down to like 4200, did I break you? There we go. She's thinking. So you'll see it gives it kind of like a sepia tone, which honestly might be a little bit too much. So maybe we'll go with like a 5300. Because I don't want it to be like super color affected. I kind of just want it to be a little bit. Maybe a little bit more than that. So let's do 5000. Say what? I can't hear what you're saying.
What is D300 equivalent to?
5300?
Oh, you said 5300.
Yeah, no, 5300 is just the temperature for bringing it down a little bit, so it ends up being a little bit warmer. Okay. So I think I'll stick with that. That's a little warm. It's not too warm. I think it looks nice. So we'll stick with that. All right. Also, I'm going to go ahead and take a disc light, and I do have lighting coming out here, but with the little panel that I added in the back, it's kind of taking away from that really nice sharp cone shape that I had before. So I want to rebuild that cone shape that I had from the light coming up here. So I'm going to go and take this disc, we'll shrink it down just a little bit, and then let's take that cone angle, something that feels kind of, that probably will work fine, and then go and mess with the cone softness, bring that up, I'll render that. So then we should get a highlight on the wall. So So I can see a little bit of that like right there. Bring that cone softness down a bit more. We'll bring that up just a little bit. Actually, no, maybe bring that up a little bit more. I think it needs to be a little bit narrower. And yeah. So I think that'll work. All right, temperature. So my light bulb was like, what, 5,000, something like that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and match that temperature. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and add some color for the walls, maybe like some paint or something. So I want to do like maybe like a painted, maybe just like a wall paint with like a little bit of like a bump map to it. So it's got a little bit of like a speckle. So let's go and do that one. And while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and delete history. This have like a lot of UV history going on. Okay. All right, wall Pixar. What color should the wall be? Pink? You look very indignant. Are they like, yeah? Why pink?
I mean, it's already in your color history.
Huh?
Like a similar color already in your color history.
So I'm not going to do pink because that's also the color of like the missing texture.
Well,
Give me something else.
Purple.
Purple? That's a little close to pink.
what about
Yellow.
teal?
Wouldn't it be the
Let's do like a cream, like partial yellow. Something like that. All right, we're gonna do this. All right, so let's go ahead and kind of build up. Let's go and start building up some bump mapping for this. So I'm gonna go ahead and go under, basically primary specular and bumping is gonna be where I'm gonna be putting in some procedural stuff. So let's do globals, bump, and I'm gonna go under pattern and PXR bump right here. Let's go into that node and then let's go under the pattern. Let's actually open up our hypershade. Ooh, so much. There we are. I'll graph that. So for me to kind of get a little bit of like a speckling texture, I like to kind of play with the under pattern. I like to play with the noise. Voro noise is kind of fun to use as well. You can use kind of either one of those if you want to. So Voronoi is going to be under RenderMan pattern. It's going to be Pixar Voronoi right here. We can try that. He's underground.
That's a nice cave.
I mean, that's kind of cool. Like, it's not horrible looking, but it's not good. So,
What color?
Is- yeah, Voronoi. All right, so we can kind of play with the frequency. It's a little crunchy. So frequency is going to just kind of multiply the pattern for us. We can also play with octaves and see what that gives us. So that's giving me a pretty noisy bump map. I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and let's go ahead and turn down that bump, the scale. Let's go to like a 0.2 and kind of get a little bit further down. So we're gonna see what it kind of maybe more realistically will look like. And honestly, the render quality of this viewport editor or viewport renderer is not really going to give me something that's going to be something I can really work with at this point any further for the wall. So I'm going to go ahead and actually turn it off, because I need to actually start rendering out like legitimate images here. So I'm going to go to my preview renderer, activate that, and I can actually take a look at the image a little bit better.
Would changing the black and white colors on the output scales, would that do a similar thing to changing
On here?
the, yeah.
Yeah, actually it would. If you bring it a little bit closer together, it would kind of effectively bring down the contrast. So it kind of would, but I'm kind of playing with like the scale, which is going to give me kind of that similar effect. But yeah, you can mess around with it. So essentially, I'm going to bring down the frequency and then bring down the octaves, because it's getting really like super fine. And kind of go back at it and see what I'm getting. So now I'm getting a little bit more detail. See from like here to here. So yeah, that's still pretty crunchy right there. Like that's definitely too much. So go ahead and stop that. And then let's go back to Pixar Bump. .05, and then we re-render. and this is where you pull out your 3DS or your Switch and play a game. Or go get on Reddit. Whatever happens first. So by going through the render preview rather than doing the viewport renderer, at least I can kind of go back and like compare images together and see how they're kind of like working. So this one's clearly a bit too crunchy. This one's a little bit better. It almost feels like this is kind of a canvasy texture. So you'll see a little more detail right through there as it's refining it. So I'm going to go and take, go back to that Voronoi. I'm going to turn the frequency up a little bit more. And then I'm still going to go back to the scale. Turn it down to like a 0.025. Because I want to be able to see that texture on the wall just a little bit, but I don't want it to be overpowering. Like I don't want to be like super immediately notice it, but I want to be able to like look around the room and like kind of be like, oh yeah, there's a little bit of like dimpling on the paint. You know, I can see a little bit of that texture in there and kind of enjoy that. Any questions so far? No?
Oh, so I want to make it a camera to view, and that's why I have to look at this later, but I don't have the options to do that on my viewport.
What are you asking?
If you want to like make a separate camera and lock the render camera, so
Yeah.
you can go back to your I
Alright.
don't have the option to do that.
So you're just going under viewport and you go to like view and then you hit new.
Yeah, it's like view and shading and lighting.
Or I'm sorry, panels. You go to panels, perspective, and new.
I don't have that bar of options.
You don't have any of those?
No.
Where does it? Crap! I've run into this before. Where does it go? Google viewport toolbar missing. My viewport toolbar missing. It's like a preference or something you gotta turn back on. Oh wait, I think I remember. It's like Windows, UI elements. Maybe it's under display, heads up. It's somewhere in here, but you'll find it. All right. Okay, so that's not bad. That's getting better. It's not as obvious as before, but like when we do like a 1920 render, we'll be able to see a little bit more detail. But that's good for now. I'll deal with that. All right. So let's go ahead and UV the table. Because the table's kind of funky. So we'll go and do that guy. So I'm gonna do a face select and select a ring of faces here. And what I'm gonna do is go ahead and hold down. Let's do Control, right click, and I'm going to go to Grow Selection, Grow, and hit G a few times. Okay, so basically I have the saucer section of the table, the tabletop. And we'll take that, go to UV, and where am I going to UV it? What plane? Huh? Y, exactly. Alright, so we'll do Y. Project. Alright, cool. And we'll go ahead and grab, let's do these faces. Screw it, we'll just do this. And then we'll project this on the x-axis. Alright, so I need to go ahead and split, I will need to go ahead and split the table into a couple pieces. So right now the saucer is going to be by itself, but it has a top and a bottom, so I need to get those apart. So what would be a safe seam line for me to cut the top and the bottom away from each other? Where? Well, I mean, it's already, like, I need to cut the bottom away from the top, though. So where could I put a seam line? Where would you think?
Would you put one around the side?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was that about?
Oh, it was just for the painting show. It sounds like it was
Okay.
he spelled my name wrong on the flyer, so he just gave me one that was spelled right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I would go ahead and put a seam right here. So I'm going to go and click edge. I'm going to grab this edge since it's going to be basically hidden from the camera. So double click, and then we can go into the UV toolbox. Let's see, UV. Let's see, is it down here somewhere? There it is. And just move it off. There we go. I need to flip this one. So we'll go to modify flip. And then both of these, I'm going to go ahead and just tell them to unfold. And they're good to go. All right. So we can go and shrink them. And then go ahead and deal with all of this. Any ideas how I could approach the bottom of the table?
Put it like vertically along one of the sides and just let that way.
Okay. So let's give that a shot and see how that will work. So what edge would you suggest doing that?
I like the one that goes right down the middle between the legs.
Like this one?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to here. No, that's not the right one. Just grab that. Alright, so just that edge. And try to split that. Is that what you're thinking? Larry seemed a little reticent to stick with that answer.
Do you have to get the entire loop?
I'm actually not going to answer that because I'm going to let you direct me.
Oh.
You're like, crap.
Uh,
So let's do what you said. Okay, let's go ahead and cut it,
okay, got it.
and then unfold.
Well, okay, go back.
Why?
Because it looks funky.
It does look funky, but I mean, is it really funky? Is it like truly funky? Let's check the checkerboard. How about that?
Okay.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it looks pretty funky.
Does all of it look bad?
Couldn't you just split the bottoms?
I could.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So the legs are going to be the biggest problem here because in reality, like the rest of this is it's just a cylinder, and that's really easy to split open. So what I can do is we can go ahead and cut off these leg pieces and then UV them by themselves.
I don't like the way it looks like that.
Say what?
I said I kind of like the way it looks like that. It's like,
I mean, like the way it's UV'd.
yeah. Well, no, I mean like I just like if I saw this lampstand in real life, I would think like, oh, what a nice lamp.
Well, thank you. I worked for a solid 10 minutes on it when I made it. I'm glad to know if the teaching thing never works out, I can go work at Ashley's Furniture Design. All right, is that all of them? I think so. Okay. All right, toolkit, you need to like get over here. Okay, so I went ahead and I went ahead and selected those seams, I should say, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut them. So now I have that, so these legs are by themselves, and then I have to deal with this. Any ideas what I could do to fix this?
You could cut a couple of the lower edges.
Which
That way
ones?
it's not pinching so much.
Which ones?
The ones that are leading into all leading into that one point there.
This?
Yeah.
Yeah? Alright, let's go and do that. So let's cut that one, this guy, that guy. Okay? So then if we go ahead and tell it to re-unfold, then we'll get this. And if we look at the overall scale of the podium now, or the pedestal, it looks a lot better actually. Like it's getting a little bit out of scale down here, but like overall it looks pretty decent. So, yeah. All right, so I need to deal with the legs, right? These little guys. All right, so what I might suggest is just go ahead and like re-projecting, since we're kind of having some weirdness going on. Well, actually, you know what? Let's try this. Maybe we can just try like cutting up the back edge and then re-unfolding these to see if they kind of work. Oh, that is so stretchy. Look at that. Look at that. It's just awful. All right. Let's just go ahead and cut up the back, see if that might help out. So I'm going to cut this. I actually meant to do this one. It's like one of those things where you just keep like zooming out on Google Maps and it never goes away. All right. All right, so we'll do that one. And actually, let's see if that even works. So we'll grab this and unfold. All right, so that it looks better. Like stuff looks a little bit more in scale. Let's see if it actually is. I believe it was going to be this one. Yeah. So, kind of. It looks a little melty, but it does look a little bit better. I might actually suggest just go and just reprojecting anyways, just to simplify that process a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and get those, let's grab those faces. So grab these faces, grab all these faces. So now we basically just have like just the legs selected. And actually, you know what? Let's make this a little bit easier. I'm just going to do like one leg at a time. So that's going to be this one. So I'm just going to put my camera right here. I'm getting like most of the leg. I'm going to go to UV, and I'm going to do camera based. So it's going to reproject the UVs based on the camera. And I'm going to do that several more times. But you'll see like that's what the UV is giving me. Okay? So that's a really good use for camera based UVs.
What would be the difference in using unfold along instead of unfold?
You can probably select the edge and it would just unfold that as an edge. Alright, so I'm going to grab this leg and we'll do same thing, camera based. We'll do it again. And we'll do it one more time. Okay. Alright, so I'll need to go ahead and select an edge that's pretty well hidden. So I'm going to grab, honestly, probably like this corner edge, or I could do like a back edge, whichever one works best. But I just need one of these to kind of unfold. To cut and unfold. I don't need the front edges. I just need the one on the back. So we'll just leave. Actually, now I'm just going to select. This one. Okay, so that should be good. I'm gonna go cut. Move you over. Which one are you? You this one? No. You're this one. Okay. Go ahead and unfold. And there we go. So now we got a foot. So I'm just going to grab some more.
Sorry, can you show what that looks like?
Yeah. You're talking about you want to see this one with the checkerboard on it?
Yeah.
Okay. So that would be this one. So it gets a little warpy down here, but overall it works. Okay. view, tell you to unfold. Let's go over here. Cut. Unfold, and then we'll do the last one. There we go. All right, finally. Get all these, shrink them down. We got that. I'm gonna go and straighten this up. Go and shrink this down too. And then go and arrange this. So with the tabletop, I'm gonna let that be kind of its own UV space. And then the table feet and pedestal will be another UV space. All right, so let's see how that looks. All right, we got some scale issues going on in here. So I need to actually make the actually feet a little bit bigger. So let's take, well, I need the squares to match a little bit better. So I'm gonna actually shrink this down. Let's keep shrinking. Kind of like that. That's not bad. Okay, that'll work. So they're about proportionally about the same size again. And then I got a little bit extra space here, so I'm gonna actually make everything just a hair bigger. flip you so you fit right there. And put you down here. So, a couple things to think about when you guys are going to be doing, because like one of them is going to be, one of the textures is going to be wood. If you're going to be doing like furniture that has like wood assembly to it, I would definitely take in consideration the direction of the wood grain for each piece of the furniture. So like a wooden table or like say this one for example, is going to probably have the pedestal column made out of one piece of wood, and then the legs are going to be physically separate pieces attached to that table. So if the wood grain is going in the same direction for all pieces, that might appear a little bit odd. So you may want to think about, like, maybe look at some reference of wooden tables and see, or maybe just whatever you're texturing, but see how the grain might fit together. So like, again, another example might be if you do like a wooden, like a raw wood grained picture frame. So when you guys took painting, you guys all took painting, right? Did you guys ever have to like make your own like frames or do your own, you didn't have to do like your own canvas stretching, anything like that?
You showed us how to do it, but it wasn't required.
But like you saw like the pieces of wood that would like slap together?
Yeah.
Okay. So like each one of those is like cut from a piece of wood. Basically they're all like side by side. So their grain technically is always going to be 45-degree angles to each other. So it's not going to be like one continuous grain direction for all four sides of the frame. So a lot of times when people like are texturing, say like a frame, they just like boom, just do a UV projection and unwrap it. But like what I'll do is I'll actually cut it along the seams that would naturally occur when you're actually building that frame. So like right here, you may cut like a seam here and then have like those two slats end up being parallel so that they end up getting parallel grains. But when you look at the model, it ends up being 45-degree angles to each other, or 90-degree angles, I should say. So just a little detail to like keep track of is like, think of like construction of like how things are going to be put together. Same thing for like fabric. So like when you guys do your fabric, like your fabric directions or patterns are not going to be the same thing for like the entire like shirt. Like Emily, if you look at your hoodie, it's kind of camo-y. Is that, yeah, I guess it's a little camo-y. But like it kind of changes direction as like the sleeve is like stitched into the main part of the shirt. Brittany, same thing for yours, same thing for mine. It does change a little bit. And there are like natural like seam areas where you're gonna have that. So something to keep track of. All right. So anyway, back to the table. So I'm gonna go ahead and give the table a material. So I'm gonna go and call this table Pixar. And this is just going to be just a wooden table. I have a nice wood pattern that I found, so I'm going to use that. So I'm going to go to my Pixar texture, file name. Probably don't need tile. Got a lot of pictures of Bean in here. Where are you? There it is. All right, so I got this. So let's take a look and see how this actually kind of ends up looking on the table itself. There we go.
Oh, it's loading the texture.
Yeah. Okay, so the scale of the wood texture actually is quite large on the tabletop. So I don't really particularly like that. So I'm going to go and go back to my UV. And remember, like, these are on two different UV squares, but it's the same texture because it just repeats. So I'm totally fine with that. These are going to be top and bottom, so in theory, if, you know, this table was actually physically, like, you know, cut from, like, the single piece of wood, it may literally have the same grain on the top and bottom. It's possible, because it's just traveling through the tabletop. So I'm going to go ahead and scale this up. I'm going to go here. So what it's going to do is it's just going to basically copy. It's just going to use the same parts of the texture. That's all it is. So like right now, you see how, because I'm scaling it up, it's shrinking the overall scale of the texture. But like if I go underneath the table, if we can get enough light, you'll see that it's the same exact picture. So for this, it might make sense because the piece of wood would have been cut, you know, from, it would basically would have the same grain going all the way through it. So that would make sense that it might do that. It might not make sense if you have like a laminated table that has like a, you know, like if you look at the bottom, like this table is going to have a different surface than the top lamination pattern that it's getting. So anyway, that'll work. Now, if you want like that grain to be smaller, you know, we can go in and do a manifold and see how that would look. But I can already go and tell you that it's going to not work out because this is not what's called a repeating texture. It's not a patternable texture, so there's going to be a very obvious seam in there. But we'll take a look at that anyways, because then that's going to lead into, if you want to make a patternable texture, what would you have to do?
Photoshop.
Exactly. Gotta whip out those Photoshop skills. All right, where is? Get back here. Come on. Come on. How do I repeat my pattern again? With the texture, Pixar texture? You guys remember that node?
Is it manifold?
It is a manifold. Okay. All right, that is Pixar table texture. There it is. So I'm going to go in here. I want to go and repeat it, so it's going to be in the manifold channel. We're going to do a Pixar manifold. All right, now we're recording again. Where was I? Oh yeah, manifolds. So let's just go and do manifold. Let's do a scale of 2 and 2. Let's see what that looks like. Come on. You can do this. Do it. Do it. Do it. All right, fine. Don't do it. I don't care. It's not important. I'm going to make you do it anyways. All right, so we got a seam right there. But honestly, the scale of the texture looks a lot better. Like for me, it feels much more natural. So yeah, and even like with having a seam here, it's not. I mean, there's a lot of times where like woodworkers will like glue pieces of wood together and then like, you know, create tables and stuff out of them or join them together. So like that's not uncommon, but the idea is that we might want to have something that's a little more seamless, so we can pattern it however much we want. So what do? We go into Photoshop. That's what we do. Alright, so let's go and take this. And so what I'm going to need to do is go ahead and go into filter, other offset. And basically it's going to allow me to move the image where I'm getting my seam in here. So this, I mean, just right off the bat, this is not going to work 100%, just because it's not. Because there's going to be such a drastic seam line in it that it will take quite a lot of bit of work that basically will end up destroying the image anyways, in order to get it to look seamless. So this is much better, like if you're going to be using this for like ground covering, like grass or gravel, or like tile. It's much easier to work with tile. So same approach, but you know, we'll get this as far as we can go, but it probably won't be 100% amazing. So I'm going to go and take background. Let's unlock that. I want to do spot healing brush. And basically I'm just going to go and take that. And it's going to go through and try to delete some of the areas that are a little bit weird. Just going to try to heal it a little bit. And then since that may not be working, I mean that's actually not, it's not terrible, but that's not great. Kind of work with a little bit more. Okay. Should like that a little bit better. Nothing you do is go in with clone stamping if you wanted to try to maybe wipe some of this out. So we'll do clone stamping like that. Go and sample. And then with the stamping, I'm going to go take my opacity down. So I kind of want to blend it together a little bit more. Try to like wipe out some of this area. So something like that. Just so we're kind of taking away some of the obvious seam line. And then honestly, for a lot of patterning, I'll try to take out like what's really kind of obvious, like spots and stuff. Try to wipe them out, like these knot holes and things, and we'll try to get rid of. But with this type of pattern, it's going to be super obvious that it's going to be patterning anyways. I mean, if you do like, 10 by 10 or something, you'll see it. But hopefully for, doing like a 2 by 2, it should be good enough. All right, go back to filter, other, offset, and reset it. And there we go. I'm gonna save it out, and we'll save it as a TIFF. And I'm going to call it wood grain seamless-ish underscore CMP for a color map. And then I'll keep this open so I can turn it into like a spec map and a bump map and all that good stuff. All right, so let's test this out and see if it works. So I'm going to go to Pixar Texture, just pop in the new one. There we go. Okay. We'll try that. Preview the render. So this is what we were working with before, and let's see what we're working with now. Oh man, it's gray with an R and a D on it. That's not right.
You got some pretty low quality wood there.
Yeah, it looks like it came out of like
MDF.
the cheap section of Lowe's. You're right, it is fake wood. It's very fake.
You know, in that press board. Like that deceiving
You ever go to like a furniture store and like ask the question of like, is this real wood? And they're like, yeah, it's real wood. And then you like look at the back and like, no, it's not real wood, it's pressed. Well, it's made out of wood particles. I'm like, that doesn't count. Well, that's what everyone makes it out of. That doesn't make it good.
No, that means it's more breakable.
It's like if I get any sort of humidity, it's gonna swell. Come on, switch it over. Let's do. Oh, you are not making me happy. Come on. Re-render.
Why are they so colorful?
Yay! I don't see a seam. I mean, I don't see a seam. I mean, that's what we had first. That's what we have now. Eh? 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 Eh?
Very good.
Eh? Eh?
Very nice.
See? Now it's making it look terrible.
Now let's mess it up.
All right, we're gonna change the scale to 10 by 10. It's gonna make it look like it's made out of like 1,000 pieces of chipboard. But really, this is just to kind of illustrate that like there are limitations. Maybe you shouldn't make everything super tileable or tiley-y. So as you guys are going to be repeating textures, make sure you are paying attention to stuff that just, I mean, pay attention for like small features that do repeat, because if it's really noticeable, everyone's going to see it. Like if you can see it, we all can see it. Okay? So like this right here, it's obvious that we have this pattern going quite a bit, and it loses the effect that this was ever would. It looks like bad video game textures.
It almost looks like a cloth almost.
I mean, yeah, a little bit. So, but it doesn't work. So, no, I'm not digging it. So you need to turn this back to what it was before. So we're going to do a 2 by 2. And yeah, so there we go. All right. I'm going to go and do a little bump map real quick, and then we can take a break. How about that? Does that sound fair? All right, so I'm going to go and add let's do a brightness contrast layer. I'm going to add in a hue saturation layer. So the hue saturation, I'm going to go and take it down to grayscale. Brightness contrast. Depends on how much actual like detail I want on this. So it's already got like a lot of like light and dark areas. Like, do I want this like nicely like smoothed out sanded wood, or do I want this to be like really kind of like rickety and like you're gonna get a splinter on it? So you're like, yeah, get the splinters. So maybe I'll pull my contrast up a little bit. Maybe pull that brightness down just a little bit. We can save that out as a bump map. And then I'm gonna do another one actually. That'll be a low contrast one. So I'm just doing a second one just to show the difference. So again, this is 2, and let's go and attach them. There we go. Pixar bump. Take that. File name. And we will be taking the modified. I'll take the original one. pop it here. Bump manifold we're going to need, so let's do bump manifold 2D, and that's going to be a scale of 2 and 2, right? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So bump is going to go under global's bump right here, so it connects in, and should be connected. All right, let's look at that crunchy goodness. It's like someone like burnished RenderMan directly into it.
Nice. I need to know where this came from. Which is free app back That's why I was saying that. There it goes.
Yep.
Is that the first one? Or the second one?
That's the high contrast one.
Oh. I think it looks good.
I want to see it go through a couple more passes before we get too excited with it. It doesn't look, I mean, it doesn't look bad at this point, but look, I look at like this, and that's a little bit too high for me. But it's not horrible.
Every time I watch the render, it just runs with a deep frightening. But so many filters on it's still bad.
What if you wanted to make it more like a redwood, medium kind of color? You can do that with the chalk, right?
Yeah, just change the color of the texture. Yeah. Okay. So, not bad. Let's take a look at what the low contrast one will give us. So, it's not too bad. Let's replace it with low contrast. And so if that's better or worse. And also keep in mind that like the bump, I haven't changed the scale or anything, so it's still set to 1 at this point. So we had this one, and now we're going to have this one. So here we go. 1, and 2. 1 and 2. So it's a little bit less prevalent, the details in the lower contrast one, just simply because the values are a little bit closer. Yeah, but it's not a huge difference.
That's a little contrast.
This is low contrast, this is higher contrast. So I still would probably go into like the bump scale and lower it a little bit and play around with that value. Yeah. All right. You guys want to take a break? Go take a break. Alex is like, oh God, yes, please, let me take a break. Has it not been uploaded yet? Okay. I think probably what it is, the video takes so long that like once class ends I have to tell it to render, and then yeah, so and then I don't have a class in the afternoon, so I'm not able to upload it. But yeah, let me go and upload it. I need my videos. My precious videos.
Did you start doing this because of how
So I'm just kind of popping in the bump map into the spec, primary specular channel, and then also giving it a little bit of a specular face color here. Excuse me, you're supposed to be calling me about business, so you need to call me on my other phone.
have, okay, so
Why don't you
then
just
we
make
can,
those stuff?
we have three at least three objects, and then two of the objects we have to take photos of.
Two of the materials you have to take photos of.
That's what I meant, two of the materials, and then one of them, I guess we could take offline, and we
But you don't have to limit yourself just to those materials. You can do other materials.
well, we have to at least have three materials.
Yeah, from that list, correct. But if you want to do more different ones, you can. You can add that in there.
What about stainless steel? That's terrible.
So it was scratched. Oh, it's raining. It has to be like scratched steel or rusty steel.
Rusty beads.
Oh my gosh, there's like, okay, so there's a pole. Can it be like painted metal? Like painted rusty metal?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, because there was a pole on my way to like past the library, and it looked really cool. It had like rust on it.
Mm-hmm. Huh?
I'm asking if that rusty pole was by the store.
Maybe.
Because there's a bunch of rusty poles. I'm gonna stop talking.
So with the nose, I want to do like a little speckle texture on the nose. So for him, it's going to be like a black plastic with like a little speckly bump on it. Right now it kind of looks a little metallic, so I'm going to go and take down that face color so it's not as, not as shiny. And we would take, actually probably the roughness ought to be a little bit further up. And let's go ahead and go down to bump. Emily, we're back in class. Yep. You had 10 minutes. I don't care. So anyway, we're gonna go into pattern. Let's do 2D textures. So I'm gonna jump over to this one, and I want to use. Let's do a simplex noise. And actually, you know what? I think I may have attached that up. Let me back up real quick. I need to disconnect it. What material are you? Pixar Surface 9. Let's change that over to nose. Nose plastic. It's gonna be this one. Graph it. All right. Let me disconnect this. So let's go into PXR bump. And then the input, since this is a pre-made pattern, I'm going to go and take that and put that into the pattern channel right here for bump. And then this is going to go from result into the bump normal channel. And we'll see if that comes through for us. It went really white. Why did you go so white? So this we have black color. Face color, bring that down. Roughness. That's weird. Sometimes this isn't going to be, sometimes it doesn't render what it should be rendering. So if it doesn't look like it's working, I'm going to go check through the preview renderer. Basically turn this off and just go render it. preview it. Yeah, so that's what it should be looking like. Okay. All right, so it's not giving me the bumpiness that I'm looking for. So I just want to go and turn down the face color. I'm going to turn back up the roughness. And that bump is connected in here. And the simplex noise should be giving me something. But maybe it's just an incompatibility between the Maya procedurals and the Pixar one or Pixar nodes that we're using. So may need just to switch over and use something else. Okay, yeah, it's not working for me. So let's go and take it out. That didn't work. That's fine. Try something else. So I'm going to take this one out. Delete. And let's go and add in another pattern. So this time going with, I know usually like the 2D just regular noise pattern works. So I'm just going to add that in, even though that is still a Maya one. So we'll try that. Here we go. All right, for that one, let's go and go into the Place 2D. So the Place 2D is the exact same thing as the manifold. Allows us to move it, rotate it, scale it, whatever. So I'm going to go into Place 2D. There's a Repeat UV option. That's the same thing as the scale. And I'm going to go and do 10 by 10 because I want like a little dimpling. And then the noise, I'm actually going to change some of the values here to get a little bit darker, kind of mess with the ratio a bit, because you see it's kind of hard to see in like the little swatch right here, but it's a little patterny, so I'm just kind of messing with it, kind of break it up a little bit. So I really just want something to kind of have just a little, just kind of make it look a little plasticky. So that's pretty dark. Let's go back into here. I'm going to take that scale down to a 0.2. I'm going to take that Place 2D. I'm going to change that Repeat to a 5 because it might have been too much. Get a little bit of something right there. Let's go back into the face color. I'm going to bring that up. I'm going to bring my roughness down so I can see if I can get a little more of that highlighting. And I'm also going to go ahead and pop the Pixar bump into the specular primary bump channel in here also to see if I can get a little more detail to come out. So I got something coming through, but I really want to see what the pattern looks like. I'm gonna bring that color up. I want to be a little bit darker than that, but I do want to see that bump. Let's try that again. There we go. So I can work with that. So let's go back to the bump right here. Let's up to 0.2. Let's do a 0.1. And then that noise. Let's do maybe a 6x6. Maybe get that pattern just a little bit smaller. And then we can also go ahead and bring up maybe that face color just a little bit so it's a little bit shinier. And then the color of the plastic, I want it to be a little more of like a deeper, like chocolatey brown. So it's gonna have a little bit of, it's not gonna be like completely black, but just a little bit darker. To kind of go along with the, like the color here, the lighter color, like caramel color for the bear. That's not bad, that's better. So let's kind of see where we're coming from. So that's what we got, that's what we have now. Let's go ahead and up the face color a bit more. I'm gonna bring down the roughness, and I'm gonna further bring down that bump. So it's a 0.1, let's do a 0.05. And look at it again. Okay. So it's quite a bit of effort for a nose that we're barely going to see.
If you want to like give it more of a shinier quality, would that just be all in face color, or would you change like the specularity? Or
So the face color does basically control the specularity. The brighter it is means the higher the highlight is going to be on that nose. So bringing that up is going to basically affect all of that. But that's going to be a mix between like the roughness and the face color. So the roughness is going to be basically just be breaking up the highlight, so the shape of the highlight. But it's still going to have a highlight to it.
So if I like put the roughness all the way up and that changes the shape of the highlight, does that give you like a little light reflection on the nose, or how would that?
So if it's like a chrome ball, for example, that's going to be like the roughness is going to be really low because it's going to be like pretty mirror-like. But the face color is going to be almost white. But if it's like one of those like kind of colored, metallic-y, kind of like chromish objects, you know, like the ones like they put that coating on that's like a purple and green. So the reflection color for that would be like a purple or green color. So like for the face color, but it still would be fairly bright. Okay, so the more reflective it is, the brighter that face color is, but then you can tint that to whatever reflection color you want it to be. but then the roughness, you would play with that to get it to where you want. So maybe like if you increase the roughness, maybe it looks a little more like stainless steel, like maybe a little more like, or like brushed metal, something like that. And then, you know, if you bring it down, it's going to be a little more mirror-ish. Okay. So, all right. So all that work for a tiny little nose that probably not going to see much of. But anyway, the detail's there. And look at 1920 by 1080, you'll probably be able to see something. So, all right. Any questions? Any questions, guys? Kind of over what we went over today? Okay. So just kind of recapping. So we UV'd the table, kind of figured out maybe the best way to go about it. Looked at scaling for maybe some materials you guys may run into, as well as going in and making those materials a little bit more tileable, so you guys can work with those by making them seamless. Then kind of setting up maybe some bump mapping and spec mapping for the table and the walls, and then working a little bit like on the bare nose, getting those materials going so that they are kind of representing the material that we're trying to go for here. So yeah. So anyway, yeah, I can just give you guys the rest of the class if you want to work on your projects.
Can you make one more thing out of rubber?
Out of what?
Like rubber?
Sure. How about this ball? We're gonna make it into rubber. Okay. I don't know why I'm gonna have a rubber. Well, yeah, I guess that makes sense. A rubber ball. Yeah. So let's go ahead and do perspective. Okay. So you already UV'd. Nope, he's not UV'd. All right, I'm gonna give him a quick little UV, so it's just gonna be camera based for now. So let's do a Pixar surface. Let's do a blue, light blue rubber ball. So a lot of that work is going to come in through the subsurface in here. So if we go and turn on the subsurface, we can go ahead and pick the colors. So let's say if we did blue, maybe the front color is a little green, and maybe the back color is maybe a little purple. And then maybe we have like the gain set to like 0.666. And so by doing that, then if we go through and take a look, we can get a little bit of that purple, a little bit of that green as the light passes through it. And then we can increase and decrease the value for the mean free path distance. And then you'll see more of those colors transmit through. So increasing that distance, so we're going to have light transmitting a bit more clearly through it. So you'll see more purple coming through. And then if we bring that down, you'll see the green kind of transmitting a little bit more through that. So let's do increasing that distance so we get a little more purple in the ball. Let's do a little bit of a shinier plastic or rubber ball. And then maybe we break up the roughness. So it's pretty shiny right now. There we go, a little bit more. So maybe we go through and break it up a little bit with a maybe we'll do like a fractal. And so what that's going to do is kind of break up the little areas, so like the little highlights are not, it's not a continuous surface, maybe because like the rubber ball, it hits the floor, maybe it gets a little smudgy, or maybe like children's hands are a little greasy, and so they're kind of like changing the surface of the ball just a little bit.
And that was fractal?
Yeah, I'm just using the fractal. It's just a little smudgy. It's just a procedural that has a little bit different pattern than like a noise or a Vora noise.
That is kind of like in your laser rubber,
It's not really. Say that one more time.
like in eraser rubber, like there's like smudge marks, not like white smudge marks when you use your eraser kind of.
It's all in how you're going to build it. So if you wanted to do like an eraser rubber, you can. But like if you want like, so if you want to do that, so like the material properties for that would be basically like no material specularity on it, since it's so dull. So let's do, basically the face color would just be down to 0. And then, you know, you could just change the color to whatever you wanted for that. But that would be a pretty simple one, just because it's just basically pink at that point. I'm kind of going for something maybe like a latex ball or something like that. So like with this, you can really see how like the fractal like breaks up that roughness. Because if we didn't have it, it would just be like a very hard sheen. But you see how it's like breaking up like right through here. And then maybe like we change the face color. Maybe it has like a purple, like a light purple color for each one of the pieces of the face color. So like every highlight's just a little purplish. And then also you may end up doing maybe like a slight iridescence to it. Because like maybe like the light's like going through it and like reflecting a little bit different in the colors. Kind of think of like those kickballs, like not the kickballs, but like the big like beach balls and stuff. Like you get like in Walmart, like the kids always are like smacking around. You know what I'm talking about?
It's like the blue, yellow, red ball.
Yeah, they always like the big ones, like the really big balls that the kids play around with, whatever. Anyway, I'm thinking of like those. Huh? Yeah, I mean, I try not to touch them, but like you always hear like them like smacking the ground in Walmart. So anyway. Yeah. So maybe it has like a little bit of like an iridescence to it. But really like the big thing with the rubber is like trying to get that light transmission to go through it, and that's going to be that subsurface that you add into here. So like that's where you're going to get a lot of that information. And then, you know, depending on like how thin the rubber is, you may even give it like a little bit of like a glass. Just like a tiny bit of glass, just to get a little bit more translucency in it, like it's more bubble-like.
So to make it like look kind of deflated, if the ball is like slightly deflated, we just have to like bottle it to make it.
I mean, yeah.
Like that.
I mean, if it's deflated, it's gonna sink, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I would go about it. So maybe let's turn this off and just render something a little bit better. I would definitely start off by looking at the material that you're wanting to replicate and look specifically at different qualities of that material. Like, don't look at it as in like, okay, what's the ingredients for rubber? You know, like what should I put in for rubber? Look at like what you see, what it's doing under light. Okay, like if you want to do like plastic, shine a light on the plastic, see what that particular plastic does, because you know, eraser rubber is going to be different than the rubber I'm trying to make here. You know, this plastic for my glasses is going to be different than, say, you know, a plastic for like remote controls, or you know, the plastic that's on this. It's all going to react a little bit differently to light, depending on the material, the thickness, the color, you know, the density of it. It's all going to be just a little bit different. Okay. Does that make sense, Emily? Yeah? Yeah. Sorry, there's not like a preset or anything for eraser rubber. It's not that easy. Like, ah, man. Darn.
It's just like, now like, I guess like, for the eraser, it has to be like more matte, I guess.
Yeah.
Instead of, so taking out all the shine away, I guess.
Mhm.
But then like, still, cause, when you did the fractal thing for this one,
I would say, like, with eraser rubber, you're probably going to work a little bit of the fuzz in, because like there's a fuzz section on there that I think would work really well for eraser. You could get a little bit of like that edge color, because like, you know, when you, and you'd be doing like a little bit of like texture mapping too on it too, for because like when you run your eraser, you know, along the surface, it's going to turn a little lighter color, because it's like, you know, basically ripping off the top layer of rubber for that. So you could do like some nice texture mapping for that, like get that real nice detail in there. So that could be kind of interesting. This is a weird looking ball.
Looks like a pearl.
It does. I made a pearl, a rubber pearl. All right. Any other questions?
Kind of do, but it's okay if you don't have an answer for it. Like, how would you add like a glitter into it? Because I know some erasers have like little speckles of what looks like glitter, but there aren't.
Like paint flakes or metal flakes? Yeah, so that would be, so iridescence would be an interesting way to maybe approach it. There is a procedural that can give you some flaking. So if you look at let's do, actually, if you look at like Mountain, that one has kind of a scattering, flaky look to it that you can mess around with. You can also look at doing there's like a leather, or no, granite. Granite's a good one, because that one you have like different colors for the flakes that you can add in. So you can mess around with that and see if that'll give you kind of what you're wanting. And then I'll just go ahead and introduce this to you guys. So there is a layered surface shader in Pixar that you guys can like layer different things together with. So if I go ahead and open up the Hypershade and do Pixar layered surface. So you'll have like the layered surface shader right here, and then it's attached to a node that's called a layer mixer. And you'll see the layer mixer has like a base layer, layer 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so on. And then each one of those has a mask. So what those are attached to are essentially Pixar surface shaders, but they're called Pixar Layers. But they have basically the same stuff as just a regular Pixar surface. And so what you could do is you could add in, say, one layer that's like a granite of like certain colors, and then you could do another layer, it's another granite of like certain colors, and start stacking these on top of each other. And then with each one of these layers, you'll see that you have blending modes. So, or you have a masking right here. So you could actually basically turn down the mask, or you could add an image in to mask out certain parts. So if you wanted to do that, you definitely could. So that would be an option. I was thinking there was a place, because like in the old Mental Ray shaders, there was actually like a car paint where you could do like literally like do paint flakes. And I thought Pixar had one built in. I wonder maybe the Disney one has it.
So could you use that to add, like, if you wanted to put glitter on someone's eyeshadow, you would do that and just like mask off you would like, I guess, make a mask of the face or whatever that you wanted to apply it to and mask off the parts that weren't the eye.
So if you wanted to do glitter on someone's eyeshadow, that's such a, so that would be a kind of a mix of doing different types of maps for like specifically like the eye areas. So you would have like basically a completely black map with like some white glittery specks, and that might go into like a clear coat.
Okay.
So then that clear coat is only affecting like these areas, and so when light hits it, it glitters. It creates that color. Then you can have your face color that might be that glitter. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, that could really be like an interesting like research piece to kind of like figure that out and do that really well. So that could be interesting. So anyway, that would be kind of my approach to it if you wanted to do like paint flakes and glitter. But I'd be looking at maybe doing like the layer mixers, and then doing like the granite. So I really like how the granite like sets everything up, like the different pieces you can work with. So I play with that one. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? All right, get to work, guys.